This is a leadership conversation that happens to start in middle school. Most of us can remember that age, the version of us that started shrinking and second guessing what we were good at. Well, my guest today has spent the last 13 years making sure the next generation of girls sees themselves differently. I'm Kim Bohr, your host of Courage to Advance and CEO Spark Effect. And my guest today is Jilyne Jarvis, the co-founder and executive director of ZGiRLS, a confidence program for girls 11 to 14 taught by Olympic, collegiate, and professional women athletes. What you'll hear in this conversation is a story that started with a 14-year-old girl who almost walked away from the sport she loved, and what she chose to do with that experience decades later. We have a lot to cover, so let's get started. Jilyne, welcome to Courage to Advance.
Thanks for having me, Kim. I love this podcast.
I am so thrilled that you're here. And there are several reasons why I wanted to have you on. One in particular concerns the challenges that I see facing organizations in building robust talent pipelines, in which the number of women leaders is really not always on par with that of men. And, having been a middle school girl at one time, I recognize the challenges that this age group faces, the body shaming, the peer pressure, and that really can derail women long into their professional careers. And so the work you're doing at ZGiRLS, which we're going to talk about, is really exciting. And I want listeners to understand that impact and why it matters in this professional lens. But before we dive in there, I want to start by talking about you in your middle school age and your ski racing career. So before the start gate at age 14, there was a young woman who fell in love with a mountain. How did skiing find you and what got you hooked? Like, when did this love turn into something that you wanted to be more committed to in racing?
Yeah, it's funny. I don't even remember learning to ski because I was that young. I think I was 2. I'm one of four siblings, and I'm third in the line. So I have 2 older brothers, and I wanted to do anything that they did. So they skied, I skied. And I honestly think the reason I became such a good ski racer is because I didn't want to be ditched and left by them, because if I didn't keep up, they left me. And so, I think I got into the sport because it was a family sport. Mm-hmm. We loved going to the mountain together. And I just loved the community, and I loved following my siblings around and having a blast with them and being outdoors every single weekend. It was just a huge part of my upbringing and the things that we did together.
So you raced the Europa Cup for the U.S. ski team at 19. What did that elite skiing racing teach you about the mental game that perhaps nothing else had at the same degree prior?
How important your mind is. When you get to a certain level in ski racing, well, I would argue in anything, the margin, the difference between the best and, the 100th best ski racer in the world is so mental. And it's how you feel about yourself and your ability to do what you think you can do, which is probably foreshadowing why I end up creating ZGiRLS, because when I was on the U.S. ski team, I did not perform very well. I went from, college. So just a little bit of background, by the way. I went and competed in college in ski racing. So I got a scholarship. I went to the University of Vermont as a true freshman. So I was 18 years old. And I got really good because our team was really good. We had a bunch of ex-US ski team athletes, and I loved it and felt very confident and excelled to the top of the college circuit quickly. I actually made the US ski team after my freshman year, and I declined it because I felt like there was more growth for me on the UVM ski team. I just loved learning with my peers and getting better, and they pushed me in an incredible way. And now I know it was a team sport. So in college, ski racing is a team sport. On the U.S. ski team, it is an individual sport, or at least at the time it was. I can't speak to what it's like now. But I think what it really taught me was I went from this environment where it was team spirited and not as much individual pressure to everything is about performance and everything is about every single run. And it was too much for me.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the power of your mind and how much you have to understand your thoughts and what that would mean, not only for that short career on the US ski team, but then thereafter and what I am now dedicating my career to doing.
So tell us a little bit more when you're talking about this time between 14 and 19, because you've told a story that I've heard that I think would be really interesting for our listeners around where you didn't know you wanted to necessarily continue at one point at that really pivotal age you focused on with ZGiRLS.
Yeah. So, as I shared, I love skiing from a very young age. It became such a big part of what I love to do and who I am. And I got good really, really fast. And I'm an extrovert, so I talk a lot. I was really loud. And so I think a lot of people looked at me at 11, 12, 13 years old and said, that girl has so much confidence. And, when I was standing on the top of a podium, I did. But when I wasn't, I had absolutely no idea what my value was in the world. All my self-worth was wrapped up in achievement, especially on the ski hill. And because skiing is not a typical middle school sport, you travel a lot. And none of my friends in school ski raced. And so I wasn't invited to birthday parties. I didn't go to dances. I went to a few, but I just wasn't involved in the social world that's so important to middle school girls. And so when I was 14, I sat down with my parents and I said, I'm done. I want to quit skiing. They were incredibly confused because they knew I loved it. But to me, it was more important to fit in at school and to have friends and a sense of security there than it was on the weekends where I was spending my time, on the mountain skiing, doing something I loved. Fortunately, spoiler, I didn't quit, clearly. But it was such an overwhelmingly difficult time. And I thought that was just a me thing, but it wasn't until I retired and I started coaching girls that I realized, we are all like this.
Yeah.
We're all like this. We all just want to understand that we have value in this world. We want to belong with the people around us. We want to feel like, we can pursue our goals and we have, the skills to do that. So I just I saw this in the girls I was coaching. I was like, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with them. No one is teaching us how to build confidence in ourselves and understand that you don't have to believe every thought that you think.
Yeah.
So I created a program that now teaches that to middle school girls because they're going to grow up to be women that have a lot more confidence than I ever did.
Before you started ZGiRLS, you started with some recruiting and, working with executives and starting to see some patterns there. So what was it about some of the women in the rooms that you came across that realized, again, there was something that was impacting this level of person that maybe did tie back to where, our experience from middle school age?
That's such a good question. And I'm going to be really honest. So before I started ZGiRLS, I worked in tech recruiting. I first worked in copy or sales, and then I worked in tech recruiting for a while, which is actually a very male-dominated space, which I'm used to in sport. I, was like, oh, this is normal. This is great. But I actually didn't know at the time that I needed ZGiRLS and I needed to build confidence in myself even before I started this thing. So, to answer your question, what was I witnessing? I actually didn't have a lot of female role models in my early career. I was mentored by a lot of men, which I was used to. A lot of my coaches growing up were men. Not necessarily a bad thing, but I just didn't have the female role models and mentors I have now, which I adore. And so I think I craved that. I craved having a mentor that elevated me or really showed what it looked like to not be in competition with each other, because my entire life leading up to starting ZGiRLS was about beating everyone else, in particular, beating other women. Because if you won, whether it was in ski racing or sales, it meant I didn't. You got the sale or you got the race. And I think it just created this scarcity mindset in me that I am doing everything in my power to debunk and to break apart, because I just think women we don't have to pin ourselves against each other.
Completely agree. And it's unfortunate that there's still that going on, and I relate to your comment around coming up in very male dominated, industries and experience. That was my career too. And it was really challenging to find women who felt like they were really wanting to support one another and seeing success. So let's start talking about ZGiRL. So you started this in 2012. Just to give some context for listeners on these really troubling stats that are out there, the CDC has recently talked about data that 60% of teen girls are in persistent sadness. 1 in 3 have contemplated suicide. That data didn't come out until 2021. And of course, there's been maybe some data beforehand, but these really solid stats are only coming out in recent times. And yet you started this organization back in 2012. What were you seeing then that hadn't been named? And maybe some of it's what you've described and what you were seeing for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thankful the data's coming out slowly, Actually, I should say I'm thankful that the data's finally coming out, even though it's coming out slowly and scarcely, because we saw it. We saw it in the girls. We saw it with our own eyes. We saw it in the way girls limit themselves before the world even does. And the world's going to continue to tell you you can't. And so if you're, telling yourself you can't before you even take the shot, before you even apply for the job. I mean, how many women don't apply to a job until they're 100% sure they qualify for every bullet point?
Yeah.
What a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
We were seeing that in girls over and over again. And I said, this is a problem we can solve, because it's just a skill to learn. Yeah. And it's teachable. Now, the thing that I tell parents all the time is we can teach your daughter the skill of building confidence, but we can't give it to her. No one can give someone else confidence. Sure, there are mentors and coaches that can, praise and do our best to root for each other. But someone telling you how great you are is not going to make you believe it. You have to actually believe it. And that comes down to different tools and skills that you can learn to believe the thoughts that you have, at least the productive ones. So, I think I just saw a problem that I wanted to address, and I don't think I really fully knew it would become what it is. I'm so grateful that it did. But I honestly just started it as a side gig to say, this is a small problem I see in the world, and it's healing me in the journey of that, because I need this too. And so that's really what got me to start it. And then the data started coming out, and I'm like, yeah, see, it's every middle school girl and every woman.
So was there a particular reason at the time you felt it was middle school, or was that because of the girls you were working with were at that age? And then talk a little bit about the focus of athletes and why you've chosen that over other types of influencers that might come in and help build this skill.
Yeah, so why middle school? Why 11 to 14? It's an incredible age where your brain can start to understand the complexity of okay, I have thoughts. I'm not my thoughts. Like you can kind of separate body from mind.
Yep.
And so just that awareness is key to then be able to use the tools. But we also didn't want to go too old, because we wanted to really target the age range before life gets a little bit bigger, before the social pressures really take hold, which is around 14, 15. Where girls start to look externally for validation to say, am I okay? You tell me I'm okay. Do I have value in this world? I need you to tell me I have value, whether it's their peers, their coaches, their teachers. So before all of that happens, we want to give them the tools to, when that stuff starts to happen, they can say, no, I'm good. Like, I know I'm good. I'm okay. And so that's why we target that age. It's right before confidence really plummets. So we're really trying to tackle the problem before it becomes a problem. And then I don't remember your second question.
Yeah. So why athletes?
Oh,
Why
yes. Okay.
Because that is the full focus of the delivery side for these girls.
Yeah. So obviously my background is in sports, but one of the things I'm so passionate about is to share vulnerably my story and have other athletes share their stories, because we're the best in the world at what we do, and we also struggle with this. So how do we expect girls that don't have sports psychologists, that don't have all the resources that we have to navigate confidence, self-esteem, your mind, all these things, if they're not given the tools? And so really, it's women that are the best at what they do, sharing honestly, saying, hey, there's nothing wrong with you. I have days that I doubt myself. When you see me on Instagram or on social media in the start gate, or when you see me standing on the edge of the mat about to do a routine and you think I'm not scared, you think I'm standing there fearless, I'm not. I have nerves that are out of this world, and I have practiced over and over again to a point where I can believe that I can do this. But it's not because I'm not afraid. And don't think that if you're afraid, you're not ready either, because you are.
Yeah, I love that. What's the message you give to parents? Like, what is their role in this process too?
Yeah, so parents are a huge part of this. Caregivers are a huge part of this, because they spend the second most time with that child, right? So the first is school and their peers and their teachers, and the second is, around them. And so one thing we say to parents is, don't try to teach this. Girls often don't want to hear it from their parents, but we're going to teach you what they're learning so you can watch, so you can observe, and you can use it for yourself, because the best way to empower a child is to be in the work with them. So when you get stuck in a fixed mindset and you're commenting on yourself like, I'm never going to get that job, I'm never going to be good at math, pause, say, oh, I can't believe I just said that about myself. No, I just haven't figured this out yet. I haven't figured this out yet. So you're doing it to yourself, but you're not teaching your child how to do it. You're demonstrating it, that you're human, that you're working on this. And it just clues in for them like, okay, So that's one of the things that we do. All the parents in our program get the resources and some parent guides. But the biggest thing is, let us be the ones to sort of introduce the skills and the tools, and then you can help reinforce it at the dinner table in a conversation. We give questions that they can ask to prompt a conversation in a meaningful way. Car rides are the best time to have conversations with your kids. We try to equip parents with all of those tools just to make it reinforced more and more.
I think that example you gave is really critical, because if you think about how much, our kids are observing us more than we realize, and they're absorbing more. And even that example of using the yet, I think that's even a powerful example for leaders today, because I think there's a lot of that still flows through us and we don't necessarily catch it. And I think just even as you said, that awareness that you're bringing to the parents on to help model for themselves, that's why I really was so excited to have you on and making this connection to this talent pipeline, because we're doing a lot of these things as women leaders and not even recognizing it. And here we are in adulthood, and we're expecting our children to try to navigate this more cleanly, And so I think it's just, I love that example that you gave. I think that's a powerful one for any of us.
Yeah, I think as women, we navigate this like, how vulnerable can we be with our team?
Yeah.
How vulnerable can we be in spaces without looking weak? And I crave, whether it's a parent demonstrating to their child or a leader demonstrating to their team, that level of human connection that we're all working on this, that you're demonstrating by your actions and your words, what's safe to say, what's safe to talk about, that it's okay to admit you were wrong, that it's okay to admit you're working on it. I think that's such a beautiful thing that women can bring to spaces that historically may not be as welcome. And I think that's a superpower that we have.
Completely agree. So in 2025, you took on the Seattle sports commissioner role. What has that done to help shape your thinking with ZGiRLS and bring those two things together?
Yeah, I joined the Seattle Sports Commission about a year ago, and I took about 6 months to kind of get the lay of the land. And what it is, it's a team of commissioners that are furthering sports in Seattle in particular. And the community of people that are coming together to further work together is absolutely amazing. I mean, there's a cohort, a coalition that we've made that the entire purpose of this coalition is to get more women in positions of coaching and refereeing, because we want all genders of athletes to see women in leadership in these spaces. I took my two daughters to the U.S. women's national soccer game when they came to the Seattle stadium, and my two girls are looking around like, everyone on the field is a woman? I was like, yeah, the goalkeepers, the refs, the coaches, the players, like their mind was like, I can do this too. Yeah. So when you put women in positions of leadership that everybody else can see, it's sending a signal that they belong in that space too. They can do that too. So, this community is just, I get chills talking about it. We're just doing incredible work in so many different spaces, and it's really banding together all of our resources and all of our communities to say, hey, we're not working in silos. We're working together.
Absolutely. So if we kind of come back to that 14-year-old girl, if you could have walked into the ZGiRLS program back then, what's the one thing that she would have learned that would have changed everything, you think?
I think I needed to hear two things. One is, just because you think it doesn't make it true.
That's for sure.
And I think there was a lot of thoughts that I would have that would make me feel alone, that would make me feel isolated, that would make me feel like I didn't belong there or I would never make it. And you're not necessarily going to stop those thoughts from happening, but you don't have to give them power and energy. I like to equate it to like a car, and you're the driver, but those voices that are fear, the voices that are self-doubt, the voices that are telling you can't, they can sit in the back. All right? Like, they don't deserve to drive the car. Fear will just tell you there's a red light coming. There's someone walking across the road. Like, she can tell me certain things, but I get to make the call on whether I'm gonna use that. So I just think understanding that, like, just because you think it doesn't make it true, I wish I had learned that at a much younger age. And the second is around fear. And I think I thought the people I looked up to were fearless. And that is what you needed to be to pursue greatness. To be the best ski racer in the world, they were fearless. To be the best entrepreneur in the world, they're fearless. To be whatever. And that's not true. I think the truth is you just have to be brave. And something that we teach to our girls is do it scared.
Yeah.
Just do it scared.
That. Do it scared.
Do it scared. Because if you can just be brave enough to do it scared, see what's going to come on the other side. Yeah, you might fail. But don't wait for the fear to go away in order to start, in order to do it. And that's what I'm doing now, right? All the time. I'm taking risks. I'm doing things I've never done before. I don't know what I'm doing sometimes, but I just have to keep saying, do it scared, do it scared. That's okay. And I didn't know that growing up. I think it held me back a lot in a lot of different places, in a lot of different spaces. And, I don't regret it, but I do wonder what would have come if I hadn't been so scared all the time and let that stop me.
Yep. That is such a great, I love that. Do it scared is a very good mantra. I think we all could benefit from. So,
Yeah.
a lot of our listeners likely have a young person in their life, a daughter, niece, sister. For the person who recognizes a girl they love in the story that you've been telling, what do you want them to do with this information this week?
I think, again, if you have a niece, a daughter, someone you love in your life that is
Mhm.
around this age, like, just understand that they're doing their best.
Mhm.
Girls don't understand they have a confidence problem at that age. None of us did, right? Like, we have
Sure.
blinders on and we think no one else gets it. As grown adults, we look back and we're like, oh, that's what that is. That's what that was. Our job isn't to try to convince these girls that we love in our life that there's something wrong with them, because there isn't. Every girl has what she needs already in her to do great things in this world and to be the most authentic version of herself. And so our job is just to make space for her to be that and celebrate it and remind her that she doesn't have to change to fit in. She
Right.
gets to be herself, and we need her to be herself. And so, getting involved in ZGiRLS is a great way. We would love to support her if that speaks to her. Um, but at the end of the day, just model yourself. Model yourself that, we're all working on this and we're all trying to understand our minds, and there's nothing wrong with her.
Yes, I love that. So, most of our listeners are leaders leading transformations of their own inside organizations. What did building Z Girls teach you about the courage that perhaps somebody could use, on that Monday morning?
Okay, so funny story about starting ZGiRLS. So started it as a side project, entered it into the University of Washington business plan competition when I was in sales, ended up getting second place out of 92 teams. And we got one of the final judges of the competition became an investor, our very first donor. But I had a co-founder, so there was two of us leading this thing together, and we led together for about 6 years. And then in about, I think it was 2016-ish, we had this decision to make. And I was like, I don't know if I can lead ZGiRLS alone. I don't know if I'm an entrepreneur. I had these blocks in my head of, I'm a team player. I'm not a CEO. I'm not an executive director. And it was actually a conversation with my dad where I told him that. And he was like, what? What are you talking about? He saw in me something that I couldn't. I was teaching this to girls and limiting myself in a label that I couldn't fully grasp, right? And so I guess I think about that now of like what labels are holding you back in your
Mhm.
career, or what blocks have you put in front of yourself
Yeah.
because of a thought or a belief you have about yourself. And I'm grateful that I pushed through, because I love leading. I love this work more than anything. And I'm so grateful that I didn't, drop it and shut down ZGiRLS. I said, no, I don't have to have it all figured out to pursue leading something and building something. I just need to build a great team, and I need to
Yeah.
figure it out as we go. You don't. And so now I really passionately mentor women entrepreneurs going through the University of Washington, because I'm like, you don't have to have it all figured out to be an entrepreneur.
You
It's this
don't.
myth.
Yeah.
We don't know what we're doing most of the time. We're figuring it out as we go. So, I think in the pursuit of building ZGiRLS, it's my craft now. It's my sport. I absolutely obsess and love it. And it's my playground to figure out what blocks do I still have as a
Mhm.
woman. And what barriers am I putting in my way that I can knock down and then talk about it and normalize, showing other women that like we're all on this journey together, and we can make it better for the girls coming up behind us by being
Yeah.
honest and helping them out.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely. So, for listeners who finish this and think this is the kind of work my company should be backing and who want to get in touch with you, what does, a meaningful corporate partnership with Z Girls look like? And where should anyone wanting to learn more and support the work come and find you all?
First of all, please get in touch. I want to have a conversation with you, because our corporate partners make our work possible.
Mhm.
We have a 100% scholarship acceptance rate. We've never, ever turned a girl away that needs financial support. And over 84% of our girls get ZGiRLS for free. So for us, there should never, ever be a barrier to gain these skills. And we're going to do everything in our power to make that possible. And so our corporate partners make that possible. Our donors and supporters make that possible. And we have a lot of fun with creative partnerships. We had an event a couple weeks ago where we had some different activations with corporate sponsors and partners, and we've done some stuff online. So I would say, we actually have a designated employee that her whole job is creative partnerships. So please get in touch. We want to talk to you and have a conversation to make it something meaningful, because we get to do great work together and build businesses. And that's the dream.
It is the dream. So they can find you at zgirls.org, correct?
ZGiRLS.org is the best place to go for all things about, joining a program. There's a registration button right up top, donating and contributing as an individual. And then we actually have a partners page as well, where you can fill out a form and get in touch with us and our team. And we'd love to talk with you.
And then also for you on LinkedIn.
Oh, LinkedIn. Yes, you can find me. I'm given my unique name. I'm just Jilyne at LinkedIn. So Jilyne Jarvis, I think it's /Jilyne, hence the benefits of a parents that made up my name. So you can find me there.
Well, Jilyne, thank you so much for sharing the story, for talking about ZGiRLS, and for sharing your passion. And I really hope our listeners take some nuggets away from themselves too. So thank you for making the time to talk with us today.
Thanks for having such an awesome conversation, and just having conversations like this in spaces. This is how we further each other and elevate each other, is having honest conversations. And you make it so easy to do that.
Oh, thank you. For our listeners, we have resources relevant to our conversation today that you can access by visiting couragetoadvancepodcast.com. And please remember to like and follow our podcast on your favorite platform so more leaders can benefit from these amazing conversations. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Courage to Advance, where transformative leadership isn't about having all the answers, it's about having the courage to find them.